Hey, everybody, welcome back and good morning on Friday the 13th to Think Sales Live with Jeff Gunsberg and myself. We're looking forward to talking with Brenda Meller. Brenda, CEO, founder of Meller Marketing. Full transparency, I use you for increasing my knowledge of LinkedIn on a consistent basis. You've been a huge help for me to understand LinkedIn. And we're looking forward to working and talking with you today. What you do is you basically work with businesses, you work with salespeople, you work with executives to unlock the power of LinkedIn.
Yep.
And a LinkedIn strategist. And I think a lot of people know LinkedIn, love LinkedIn, but don't really know how to use LinkedIn, and then maybe are a little bit intimidated by LinkedIn because it's not like Facebook. You can't put a picture of going out for ice cream with your family.
Right. You can, but it won't work on LinkedIn like it does.
Right. Well said. And so let's start here.
Yeah.
Let's talk to somebody who is not active on LinkedIn, who needs to be active on LinkedIn. What are the first couple steps?
Good question. So first thing is go to your homepage and spend 15 minutes a day in your homepage feed, thinking about kind of reading through what people are talking about, and then starting to participate in those conversations. And it might be by liking or reacting their posts. It might be by commenting. And when you comment, you want to leave 5 or more words. And the reason for that is the algorithm puts a weighted score into all the posts on LinkedIn. And if a post doesn't get a lot of engagement, and if it doesn't get some substantial engagement, usually that's measured by comments, then it kind of goes away quickly. And by spending 15 minutes a day in the homepage feed, it's a good way of getting kind of a crash course in what works on LinkedIn and how are people using it. And you're also gaining visibility for yourself because you're getting yourself inserted into those virtual conversations.
So you said visibility. So me personally, I'm somebody who has LinkedIn, has a ton of contacts on LinkedIn, and I don't use it like I should. But as far as being visible, what would you say to somebody who is more more on Facebook, more on Instagram versus LinkedIn? Like, why is LinkedIn so much more powerful? Because most people, actually, I would say the majority of people that I speak to that don't know of LinkedIn think Facebook and Instagram are where it's at, and that's it. Not to say that that's not a good tact, but LinkedIn's kind of in their minds a little lower on the scale.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm a marketer. That's my background. Before kind of starting this business, what I do with Meller Marketing, and I'm independent. I don't work for LinkedIn. But having that marketing background, I always approach that question, Jeff, with asking, who is your ideal target audience? And then when we think about social media, where can those people be found? Because if your audience is only on Facebook and Instagram, I might agree with you and say, yeah, you shouldn't be spending as much time on LinkedIn. But I will argue you this, Jeff, even if the most likely place that I'm going to find you or be referred to you is on Facebook, if I'm a heavy LinkedIn user, I'm going to look you up on LinkedIn because there's information that is on your LinkedIn profile that I can't find about you on Facebook or on Instagram. Things like your description of yourself, your products and services. More importantly, who are you connected with? Who has recommended you or who have you recommended? And then what are the things that you're posting on LinkedIn? Because if you tell me you're a title expert and I go on LinkedIn and I'm not seeing that, I might question it because it's the professional networking site. And my expectation of you should be matched or exceeded when I get to your profile. I shouldn't go, wait, is this guy legit? Is he really in business?
Right.
I shouldn't have that conclusion.
But define, so I love that you define it that way, a professional networking site. All right, so let's dive into this for a minute because everyone's figuring out ways to network, right? We're moving in, we're finishing 2020. We kind of started COVID mid-March. I think a lot of us were praying that it would be over, and now we're kind of in the second wave, right?
Right.
We're looking at 2021 saying, you know what, we really got to prep for the peaks and valleys of what's in front of us. And so the networking events in 2021 that we thought maybe were closer, and maybe hopefully they will with the vaccine around the corner.
Sure.
But networking, I ask people all the time, people ask me all the time, we talk about it on the show, well, how can I network more effectively in a professional setting? So talk about how to virtually network. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but step 2 of networking professionally in LinkedIn and in the LinkedIn walls.
So here's what I do. Anytime I have a client conversation or a conversation with somebody who might be a prospect for a lead, I'll look them up on LinkedIn. And if there's an element that I could use in that invitation to connect, I will use that. So when I reach out to you, Jeff, after the interview today, I'll look up your profile. I'll go on your profile, click on the connect button, and I might say, hi, Jeff. It was great chatting during today's Think Sales Live chat with you and John Dwoskin. Let's connect on LinkedIn.
You might say that it doesn't look like you because your picture is too old.
I would not say that yet. I would let you say, what do you think of my picture? And then I pull you through my training, right? No, I use every interaction on LinkedIn is an opportunity to build dialogue and to establish credibility for myself, but I need to do so through trust. So if instead, Jeff, if I reached out to you on LinkedIn and just click on the connect button and it's a blind invitation, you're going to be like, who's this Brenda lady? And then you might look at my profile and go, oh, she's connected with John. And then you kind of go, well, John's probably thinking she's a good person, so I'll accept it. Or like the other side of it is I send you an invitation on LinkedIn and I say, hey, Jeff, I specialize in helping salespeople like you to amp up their LinkedIn profile. Click this Calendly link to set up a phone call with me. Visit my training course now. Sign up for my e-newsletter. Here's a white paper. Here's a video message. All of these sales messages that I'm pushing at you, you're like, whoa, slow down, right? And you might be inclined to just click on ignore. So the approach I like to take is kind of like professional networking, to answer your question, John, is like social networking, but we need to think about how to build trust and dialogue with people so that they want to do business with us.
Right.
And this existed before COVID. There was a little pause in the middle of COVID. Everybody was kind of getting their bearings on things. And then they kind of go, oh, we're not going to be able to network in person. We need to do this more effectively on LinkedIn. And we know there's going to be an after COVID where we're going to be returning. But this whole concept of online professional networking is going to continue to increase in importance.
Yeah, for sure. So just to kind of back up a little bit. So what made you realize, and not necessarily at what point, but what made you realize that LinkedIn was the more, the professional, like, where did you realize that you had traction with LinkedIn? And the reason I asked that is because I'm seeing people, and John and we have been recently talking about this as he works with my sales team. Mm-hmm. And, there are people that are using it now at, 2% of the capacity they probably should, and they're immediately having success. Yeah. I'm just curious, like, to you, like, what kind of light bulb went off in your head, and how are you recognizing that?
My success is a bit different than what I would say the average user. I kind of approached it originally. It was I got on the platform. I was anti-social media, so I kind of felt like this is professional. It didn't feel Facebooky to me, and I didn't want to be on Facebook as a married woman. I was one of those people back in the day. I was like, no, anti-Facebook. And I got over that eventually. I'm on Facebook now, but LinkedIn, it was kind of like, oh, it's professional networking. So I don't need to worry about the ex-boyfriends from high school reaching out to me and all of that. And I found a job in LinkedIn at the height of the last recession in 2008 through a connection I made on LinkedIn. So for me, that was when the light bulb went off. Throughout my career, I've been using it to develop my online brand. And now when the same question is asked of my clients, there's data points that you can see on LinkedIn when you know it's working. And eventually the goals for you on LinkedIn are either to support your business, find a job, grow your brand visibility, whatever it is. That's the end goal. It's not to drive more profile views or to add more connections or more followers, but those can be steps to the sale, so to speak. So one thing is there's a dashboard that you have on LinkedIn where the first number says who viewed your profile in the past 90 days. And it's a data line, which is kind of like an area graph. And it shows you over the past 90 days, how many people have looked at your profile. And you can start to see spikes and peaks or there's spikes and dips in that. And what I tell people is focus on the spikes. What did you do that day, that week that was driving profile views? And ignore the dips. We all have them if you're inactive on LinkedIn, if it's a holiday weekend, whatever. But focus on the peaks. Where did you start to see some lifts in activity? And what's happening there is people are viewing your profile. So if you have a fully built, optimized profile, that means, Jeff and John, that you have your contact information, you're describing your business, you're listing different links and contact points that people can jump off of your profile to go and do business with you, and you're driving more people to come and view your profile, then your chances for success in generating new leads or generating new business on LinkedIn are greatly increased. So I kind of like to use data to help you to see that light bulb. Because once I've seen so many clients, and I don't know, John, if you did it, but they send me their timeline and it went from like little heartbeats to, wow, it spiked up and then it stays up after that. And they're like, oh, I just figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're talking about, Brenda. Numbers don't lie, but I also think it's important to not get lost in the quantity, because it's also the quality of people.
Absolutely.
And so that's really important too. I mean, you can have 20,000 followers and generate no business, but you could also have 5,000 or 3,000, get 2 likes, but get the phone call that's worth a fortune. And so I want to kind of lead that into being somebody who is providing content, right? It's about the content, your audience. You said earlier, go to the platforms where your audience is, where your clients are. And so talk a little bit about content and how often and what type of content. Because what I see, I provide a lot of content, and I see that people do. I mean, there isn't anybody that calls me. I would say 95% of the people who call me have been to my LinkedIn, have seen things on LinkedIn, tell me all the time, I see your lives on LinkedIn, right? So it's just talk about the content and the pace of content. Because I think, not to talk too much right now, but I think this is where people get overwhelmed. Like, how do I create content? How often do I post the content? Do I have to do original content? I don't have time to write blogs. But that's another live that we could talk about. But let's talk about just that whole piece.
Yeah. So content. So here's what I'm doing. I'm developing content right now. I'm holding my phone up and I'm going to take a picture of the screen, and I'm going to post this on LinkedIn later on today. And I'll give you guys both a shout out in that. And I'm going to say today I was on the Think Sales Live interview with John and Jeff. And we talked about LinkedIn strategies, and we talked about our professional network and social networks. And I'm going to talk about what we talked about. And I'm going to tag both of you in that post. And I'll encourage people to visit your profiles to follow you. So what I like to do is I like to pull pieces of my business that I'm already doing and use that as content. I'm thinking in terms of who is my intended target audience? Why do they care? Okay, so my intended target audience is people who may want to book me for LinkedIn services. So I want to demonstrate to them some of the techniques, or maybe I want to share some frequently asked questions. I want to show them that I'm knowledgeable about this subject of LinkedIn and how to use it effectively.
Right.
So for those folks that are kind of watching this right now, I would encourage you to think about the same thing. What is it that people need to know about you, about your business? And then how do you creatively post that on LinkedIn and share that on LinkedIn? And usually when I'm posting on LinkedIn, John and Jeff, I'm not posting sales messages. I'm not saying book me to do your LinkedIn strategy for you. I kind of focus on 3 areas: inspiring, educating, or informing. Inspiring, I might just post like an inspirational quote or pull like a Google image or something like that. Educating, I am teaching you features of LinkedIn. And informing, I might be talking about other people. I might be sharing industry articles, things that I stumble upon in my newsfeed, things that LinkedIn offers me. So I kind of like to focus on those 3 areas. Very, very rarely do I sell. So I would recommend that you're not using sales pitches in your content, because people don't like to read sales pitches. Yeah. They like to read inspirational quotes. They like to read a little bit of your backstory. They like to read FAQs, whether it's, that educational tips. Hey, if you're thinking about applying for a mortgage next year, here's what you need to do now to get your credit in order, that type of thing, right? So let's think about it in advance. Or even like, what are the pain points? And you mentioned earlier, that some people are they're on LinkedIn, but they're not using it very well. And I kind of like to refer to this category as your experience rich, but your social media apprehensive. And that resonates with the right audience for me. So if I were to post something like saying, hey, are you experience rich, but not sure how to use LinkedIn the right way? Perhaps you're at a certain point in your career where you've been doing business development the same way for years, and it's been working up until a few years ago when social media hit the scene, but you don't know where to turn, you don't know where to look, and you know everybody else around you is got it figured out, but you can't crack this LinkedIn nut. I can help you. I mean, that's the type of thing where I'm speaking not to the masses, I'm speaking to one person, but it's a category of people that I can reach with that message. So hopefully that helps in terms of content. In terms of timing, what I like to think about is I would recommend that you post once per day on LinkedIn, ideally, and no more than once a day. If you're not posting at all right now, try to post once a week. And an easy thing to do is when you see a video like this, if this resonates with you, click to share it on your LinkedIn and say, hey, I watched a video this week. So I'm trying to teach people techniques so they're not overthinking too much, like where do I come up with these things? But try to think about information that is coming into your purview, whether it's through email, through social media posts and other places, and use that as your once a week post, just to get something out there. Yeah. And then gradually working up to once every business day.
Yeah. Right. Because it gets, for somebody who's not like, experienced in doing it, yeah. It can get really overwhelming.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great point. You mentioned analytics. Mm-hmm. As far as the analytics that are available on LinkedIn, do the other social platforms offer the same, or is LinkedIn really, as far as you're concerned, the top one that can provide you the information that you need mm-hmm. to know who's looking, when are they looking, why are they looking?
Each of the social platforms offers some type of free analytics that you can get access to. And there's other tools that you can use out there that can give you deeper analytics or historical analytics or comparison data, things like that. I always like to think about the data's telling us a story, and what is it you're hoping to learn from that data? And then what are you going to do with it? Because getting data for data's sake, if you're not going to do anything with it, like who cares? Kind of thing. So, there's some things within LinkedIn in terms of like your company page analytics, for example, where they break it into 3 categories. They show you data by page visitors. So how many people have visited your page and what do they look like and how often were they there? And then there's another category of updates. So when you post on LinkedIn, it shows you the comparison data of one company page post compared to others. And the third category is called followers. So these are the people who've come to your company page and they've clicked the follow button. So it's kind of like they're raising their hand. I want to learn more about your company. And that's where it really gets interesting, because those people, some of them are leads, because you can visit a page without clicking on follow. And it's almost like I got access to your email newsletter and I clicked on the subscribe button. So there's some nugget in there that I wanted to come back and see later. And LinkedIn recently rolled out a feature where under your company page analytics, you can now see who those people are that are followers.
Wow.
And you can invite them to connect. So it's a really neat source for lead generation.
Yeah.
There's so many moving parts to, even as you're talking about LinkedIn, it's like even how to find where everything is. I know, one of the things we work on is just you showing me kind of like what's behind the scenes and how to utilize it and how to interpret it and use it to, connect with more people, help more people, and et cetera. So companies, whether they're salespeople, whether they're executives, it doesn't matter what role they are in a company, I think everybody can benefit from it. Mm-hmm. How, just talk a little bit about the experience of when they come work with you, what do you do, right? We don't
Is that a client calling now for you, Jeff?
Yeah.
I can tell you on live.
We got a new phone system. The ring sounds like I'm in the Oval Office.
But kind of walk through that process, because I think it's a little bit of a commitment to learn all of it. And so just kind of walk somebody through that, and then the benefits of, what they'll learn and how they can grow their sales business, grow their pipeline, grow their business in general.
Yeah. So it usually starts with a conversation. And let's say, John, that you referred Jeff and you said, Jeff, you got to work with Brenda, and you do an email exchange. And then I reach out to Jeff and I'll set up kind of an initial phone call. It's usually a 15-minute chat where I just, I want to get to know Jeff a little bit about what he's doing on LinkedIn now and what his goals are. And then I'll give him a little bit of overview of my products and service offerings just to make sure it's a match. Sometimes I get people reaching out to me. They just want free advice. They just want to pick your brain, so to speak. And Jeff, you're getting all kinds of leads right now.
Yeah.
Coming in. So, if you want advice for free, I'll give you a free advice. I'll tell you, go follow my company page, look up my YouTube channel, subscribe to my e-newsletter, and I'll give you free advice all you want. If you want to work with me, and this is kind of the, and I think we even talked about this, John, there's the do-it-yourself model of where if you're scrappy and you want to roll up your sleeves, you can go find out information. But if you want to have somebody who's coaching you through the process, that's where I come in. Yeah. So I might start a conversation with Jeff and ask questions like, how are you using LinkedIn now? How often are you on there? And then what are you trying to do? Are you trying to generate business leads? Are you trying to grow your brand? Are you trying to make sure that your profile is accurately representing who you are today, including your photo, Jeff? Or, what is it where are there gaps right now? And sometimes, a lot of times I'm working with executives and there's not a person in-house that they can go to and say, how do I do this on LinkedIn? Because there's not somebody with depth of knowledge there, and they don't want to admit they don't know how to do it themselves. So I'm kind of the guide by their side, walking them through profile optimization, navigation of the site, etiquette. How do you send out invitations and get more of them accepted? And then what should you do next with those? And then what do you do with those invitations from people we don't know, or from the people who are salespeople? And I've actually converted some of the sales pitches to clients. They reach out and they're trying to pitch me on lead generation, and I turn around and sell them on my LinkedIn strategy services. So that's kind of fun. But there's different ways I do things. I do individual coaching. I do profile rewrites. I do team training. So I don't try to sell you on something you don't need.
Yeah.
I'm working with someone. I'm like, you don't really need a profile rewrite. I think you just need some hourly coaching, and we'll kind of proceed that way.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, for somebody that has a sales team or you're dealing with a group?
Yeah.
Do you, to kind of expand a little bit about what you're talking about, do you envision for them that they would, do this in a group? Like, do you have success doing that, or do you think it needs to be broken out individually for each person to have that progression to quote unquote master LinkedIn?
Yeah, it really depends on the organization. And usually when I get asked that question, I kind of ask whether it's the sales leader or maybe it's one of the company executives, how do your people work best? And if we do a group training, will they participate? Right. A lot of times I come in the room, this is the pre-COVID days, and it's a conference room table with like 6 or 8 sales guys. And there's like the 2 older guys that are sitting back with their hands, and when they're typing, what
am I going to do with this?
They're doing like, they're like, why do I need to be here? And they're typing like, finger pecking on the keyboard. And they're like, they've been doing sales for years and years and years. I don't need to do this new fandangled LinkedIn thing. I know how to sell. Sure. And usually by the end of the training, those same guys are unfolded. They're leaning forward. They're going, wait, how did she do that? And then they're raising their hand and they're asking questions. And I kind of taken their guard down a little bit. And I'm showing them I want to be a friend and an ally to you in this to support. I don't know sales. I know LinkedIn. I know marketing. So let me show you how to use LinkedIn. So the team training, I think, works best with organizations where there's a lot of competitiveness, because the salespeople, they want to outdo each other on LinkedIn. And I will incorporate some of their examples, what they're doing right on LinkedIn, to show their teammates. And then it kind of creates a little bit of that community inside where they start to look at each other, support each other, look at each other's posts, that type of thing. Sure. In other instances, I have one client I'm working with right now, and he's like, I think I'm going to have you do this with my whole team, but I want you to work with me first. So let's do the 2-hour coaching session first. I want to see what you're really like. So trying to try it before you buy the whole team, right? Yeah. And then once we get to the end of that, then they say, okay, let's roll this out to my whole team. And we'll do like a 2-part training or whatnot. So it really depends on the environment.
Yeah, it's really great what you do, Brenda. I know a lot of people who have used you. You get rave reviews. I use you, and I'm glad you're here talking with us today, because I think figuring out how to use LinkedIn is absolutely critical, especially for the next few years. It is such an important platform, and it's not as easy to use as Instagram and Facebook. It takes a little bit more strategy. It takes a little bit more planning. Yeah. And so I'm glad you're on the show. You ready to do a quick speed round, Brenda?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. One thing you learned about yourself in 2020?
I can still succeed.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Favorite book and why?
Oh gosh, right now it would have to be profit first, which is something that really helped me understand finances and how to manage the accounting side of my business.
One piece of advice you would give somebody graduating college today?
Get on LinkedIn and start connecting with everyone and use a personalized invitation with every invitation you send.
That's smart. That's smart. Brenda, tell everybody how they can connect with you, get a hold of you, and who your ideal clients are.
Sure. So mellermarketing.com. You can look me up on all the major social media platforms. If you go on LinkedIn and you want to connect with me, you'll have to click on the more button. I've gotten to the point where my follower and invitations are growing at such a heavy pace that I'm trying to be a little bit more selective. So when you go to my profile, click on the more button and then just mention that you heard me on today's show. My ideal client is anybody who's using LinkedIn but knows there's a better way and you're looking to optimize your time and efforts. Ideally, it's somebody at the director level and above. And I tend to specialize in working with executives, and especially people who work in sales and business development.
All right. I agree. I love it. I love it. Brenda, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for sharing a bunch of wisdom and giving people some nuggets about how to use LinkedIn effectively. Always love your wisdom. Always love your guidance. It sounds so simple, but it's so simple it's complicated, and that's why people need coaches and mentors like you. Jeff, I'll let you close it out. Brenda, thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for listening.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I think there's just such a huge benefit, and John's right. I mean, for the next, foreseeable future, this type of professional networking is going to be, extremely important. And I think that, the service, that you're providing and guidance is something that is necessary and useful. And I, for one, certainly see us working together as well. And everybody should contact you if they're looking to unlock the power of LinkedIn.
There you go. You got my tagline. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
For talking to
Brenda,
you.
thanks very much. Great to be with you. Jeff, thanks, man. This was great.
Absolutely.
Great episode of Think Sales.
13th.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Have a great Friday. Yeah. Have a great Friday the 13th.